I'm going to try to do is show you how to create in Fusion 360 something very quickly, a quick project so we can learn how to use the CAM side or the manufacturer side of Fusion 360. So what we can do is once you have Fusion 360 up, you want to be able to create a sketch. This is like drawing on a piece of paper. So we'll hit create a sketch. It's asking you to choose a plane. I like to choose the plane between the X and the Z. So you'll have, the X and the Y. So we have a red line here for the X, green line for the Y, blue line for the Z. And I'm going to go between the X and the Y. We are going to go in this create tab here. We have rectangle, and I want to use the center rectangle. And we can just do a single click, drag out, and then we'll say 120 millimeters, typing right inside of that box with the blue highlighted text. I'll hit tab on my keyboard, 120 millimeters for this next piece down here as well. And then we'll hit enter on your keyboard. So now we have our shape. One of the things to pay attention to is we have this light blue inside of the shape. That means that it is a closed shape. And then another thing you'll notice is that the outside of the line is black. So that means that shape is fully constrained, which means if we try to click on the line and move it, we cannot do that. And that's exactly what we want. I'll show you the opposite of that. If we use this 2-point rectangle, and we'll do a single click, and click. What we see is we have the light blue still within the shape, but the outline itself is also blue. And that means that if we were to try to move this, it's going to move. It's not fully constrained, so it doesn't know all of its dimensions and all of its relations into other shapes. So right now I still have this rectangle tool selected. If you hit escape on your keyboard, we'll get rid of that. Now we have our arrow again, so I'm going to click and drag this. Let's see, here we go. And so there's still some wiggle room here, and that's not what we want. So I'll show you one quick way to fix that. This is going to be dependent on the situation, but I'll show you one of the popular tools to fix that. It's called the dimension tool, and it's just to give your shape the dimensions that you need. So what we'll do is we'll hit this tool. You can also hit D on your keyboard for a shortcut. So if you click one edge of this rectangle, and then that's just a single click, back away from it. Oops, I actually have two selected here. So I'll hit escape. I'm going to do that again. Let's click off. Here we go. So dimension. Click the edge. Single click. We're just going to drag away. What we want to be able to see is the numbers here, and this is just like if you were writing yourself a note on your piece of paper to tell yourself or remind yourself what the measurement is. So we'll do a single click, and our first rectangle was 120. We'll make this one 110. We'll hit tab. Actually, we'll hit enter. And then we'll use that same dimension tool, and we'll dimension this edge as well. And so that one is 110. This one actually might not let us do it. It might give us an over-constrained. It does. So what it says is that if we were to try to put a dimension here, that it then over-constrains the object. And I'll show you why a little bit. So we'll hit cancel. And the reason why, if you look at these little shapes, that are around our two rectangles, they are in relation to some of these constraints up here. So if you see any symbols similar to this or this right here, it's letting you know that we've intentionally made these lines vertical or horizontal in this case. And then we have some parallel lines in here as well. So our interior is actually partially constrained to the edge of, partially constrained to itself because of these lines that make up the essence of what a rectangle is. The thing that we have left is we need to choose the placement between these rectangles. So what's the measurement between these two? So if we still have our dimension tool, we can click and click, and we can drag away. And 5 millimeters is a perfect half point. So we'll go ahead and lock that in there. And so what you'll see now, instead of this being blue, we have two black outlines, which means that this is fully constrained. So that's what we want. We'll hit finish sketch. And the next thing is we'll make this three-dimensional, so we can hit extrude. Again, there's a shortcut for everything. And what you'll also notice is in Fusion 360 is if you hover over any tool long enough, you'll get some type of description. So we'll use this one to get a three-dimension here. So let's go ahead and click in between our two rectangles, and we'll give ourselves a distance. In a laser cutter, we could go 3 millimeters. And what I'll do is change the view here. You can also hit the home button to give us a nice isometric view. And this is just a preview. Laser cutter, we could go 3 millimeters. We could also go 5 millimeters. On a CNC, most likely we're using it because we're either using a harder material or we're using a thicker material. So I'll do 10 millimeters here, and then we'll hit OK. So now we have a nice little 3D extruded shape here. Now, if we were to maybe consider this to be a picture frame, our picture would need a place to rest, right? So I'm going to look from the top view one more time. And what we can do is create a new sketch. And we're going to select the plane again. And what I want to do is I'll use the center rectangle one more time. And we'll just line this up right in the corners there. And I'm going to do basically the same thing. And what we're trying to do is make our little lip. It's actually called a rabbit in a picture frame. So we'll do 100, tab 100. And that'll be perfect. Hit enter to our keyboard. We'll hit finish sketch. I want to go extrude. And then what we're extruding now is that inside piece. And so let's see here. So at first we use 10 millimeters. Pictures normally aren't that thick. You might put a back onto the picture frame after you've put your picture in there. So let's make this distance. I'm going to say 10 millimeters minus, I'll say our backing is a 3 millimeter piece of wood. So we'll go 3 point. Actually, let's do 4. Let's say our picture's about a mil. And so we can change our operation here. We could make it a new body, or we could join it to the existing body. We're going to join it to the existing body. If there's anytime you want to cut something out, you can cut into a three-dimensional shape this way as well. So what we could have done, because there are multiple ways to design to get to the same solution, what we could have done is sketch this second piece with the first piece, but cut it out instead of joining it. All right, we'll hit OK. And now we have a nice picture frame here. We're looking from the back view of the picture frame. So our picture would rest, the edges of our picture would rest here, and then we could put a backing in here as well. So sweet, quick, easy little 3D project here. What we'll do next is go to our manufacturer tab. So we have a design tab, we have some animation in here, some simulation. This is like if you're trying to find out the stress points or some effects of like physics, you can do that in the simulation. We'll use the manufacturer tab. Maybe one day we'll also talk about the drawing tab. This is to make a two-dimensional rendering of your three-dimensional item so that someone else could replicate it. But we'll go manufacture. All right. So just as we needed to create a sketch, new sketch for our object or our project in manufacture, what we'll do is create a new setup. And so a new setup will just help us tell the machine. This is essentially programming the machine. So the new setup allows us to tell the machine, here's how everything is oriented. So we'll hit setup. All right, fantastic, fantastic. So there are a couple ways to look at this, and there are a couple common ways to look at this. I'll take you through my preferred process, and once you start to develop your some experience with this, you can change things as you see fit. Also, some items are going to change based off of your project itself. Again, CNC work or milling is a lot more, you can customize the process more than a laser cutter. So one of the things you'll see is your coordinate plane here. It is common to start either from what we might consider the bottom left. Sometimes you will also start from the center, but we're just going to start from the bottom left here. And you're going to click right on that white dot. And one thing to pay attention to is that your X, your Y, and your Z are following the path that you want. Another thing to pay attention to is your body, just ensuring that there is a model that's selected here. So I click body, and we can see that it's picked up on the project that we've created, and that's great. Let's move on. So this is your stock. This is your raw material that will go in the CNC. Some things to pay attention to here is the mode. 99% of the time you're going to want to do a fixed box size. You want to measure the size of your material before you actually, in order to program it. You want to be as precise as you can be in this piece. I currently don't have a piece of material with me, but we'll just say 150 millimeters. And then our Z, we'll keep our Z exactly the way it's supposed to be in terms of where our project is. One thing you do want to change is what you're rounding up to. So what we're going to actually do is we'll say 0.01 millimeters. We don't want to round too far up and change our dimensions here. Another thing that you'll see in this setup tab is a program name or number. Um, some people will completely skip this. Some people will fill it out. It really just depends on you. I'm going to just type in here frame 1. That's the way I'm going to reference my program name and number for now. And we'll hit OK. And actually, let me go back. I'll show you this. So let's say you close your setup and you need to make an edit. You can always right click on your setup and hit edit. And the change I'll actually show you is the model position. You can choose the center of your X coordinate. And what's chosen here is the center of our Y coordinate and the center of our Z coordinate. So basically, our project is directly in the middle of everything, right centered in our material. What I'm going to choose instead is to do an offset. And we'll offset from the negative side. And then we can put in the exact dimension that we want. One reason we would do this is to try to be more efficient with the material, especially if our material is bigger, significantly bigger than our project. I normally like to do a 5 mil offset because a lot of the times we're putting screws into the material to hold it on the table. And I'll do the same thing with our Y. And I'm actually going to do from the negative Y. I want to be closer to the lower left corner. The Z, my preference is to offset from the bottom, which is considered your negative Z, but we're just going to say offset from the bottom. And I like to put my project directly on the bottom, unless there's certain circumstances, but generally speaking, directly from the bottom. So we have a 0 offset there, and we'll hit OK. All right, so what we'll look at, I'll show you a couple things here. We have some common CNC operations in order to program this piece and to cut it out. One of the common ones is a facing operation, which says that we're going to take our material, place it in the machine, we'll screw it down or use double-sided tape to anchor it down. But your facing operation will then carve or mill off the top of your material. So it will mill everything off here. What I'll do is, because our material is the exact height as our frame, we're going to leave that alone for now. We'll speed up the process just a little bit. Another operation that we would normally do is a 2D pocket. So a 2D pocket is clearing out the inside of a project. We can do our 2D project. Technically, we could clear out all of this inside here, but that would actually be a waste of material. What we'll use our pocket for most likely is the inside, this little rabbit that we made to hold your picture frame to keep it in steady. So let's go ahead and knock that out. I think that's what we'll do first. So I clicked on pocket, and then you can click on tool. You most likely don't have tools here. You may see some cutting tools here if you turn your library on. What I'm going to do is in Schoology, I'll export my tool library, and then if you come over to the edge here where the menu is, you can actually import libraries. And so I'm going to ask you to import this library here, and then we'll use some of these pre-made tools. Some of these tools we have at the school, some are just ones that I've used previously. The important thing is we'll make the adjustments as necessary based on your project, based on the tools that we have. And we actually have some tools in our shop that aren't on here. So we'll add those in at a different time. The tool that we'll want is the flat end mill. And we will hit, so this is a 1/4" flat end mill. And actually, no, I don't want to use a 1/4". Let's use the 1/8". So it has a tool number of 102. That's its quote unquote name. And this is a 1/8" mill. We'll hit select. And part of the reason why we're using my tool library is our feeds and speeds are going to be, set up pretty well here. It's going to be a close to what we need for our CNC machine. So what you'll get, long story short, you'll get spindle speed. So that's how quickly the spindle actually rotates through. So this is the piece that rotates to actually cut. And again, if you hover over any of these items, you'll get a description. I think the thing, we can keep these feeds and speeds. We'll adjust this off of your individual project. One of the things I want to show you is because we've selected an operation, we need to select where that operation takes place. So it's asking for a pocket selection. And what we'll do is a pocket selection on our rabbit. So I think that'll work out pretty well for us. And then we have different items here to customize how we're going to go about this process. I think we can actually move on from all of this. The next thing I want to show you is your clearance height. This is going to be pretty important depending on how you're fixing your material to the machine. If you're using screws, it probably won't matter too much. If you're using some additional fixture that might be higher than your material, this is an item that we're going to have to pay attention to a lot. Long story short, what we're looking at, so I'll start from here. The top height, it's asking what's the top of your material. And so we have a 0 offset. And so the top of our material is exactly what we said it is. And we're not offsetting that at all. So we're not starting at a higher place to cut and then coming farther down. And then I'm going to work my way up. So what we're looking at here is 5 millimeters above is our starting point for our feed height. And then we're going to do the same thing for our retract height. So how far does our bit come up before it goes back down into our material? And then our clearance height is 10 millimeters above. We know that there's nothing else here for the machine to bump into. The bottom height is basically the same thing, except we, instead of going off of the stock, what we're looking at is the selected contour. So our rabbit is actually the bottom, and there's no offset of that either. And so we have this blue shade here to remind us what we've clicked. One of the things that you'll actually pay attention to probably the most is if you want to do multiple depths. And what this does, it'll come down one layer at a time at a specific measurement, which I actually think is a great thing to do. For now, we'll keep this the way it is. This is really going to be based off the material that you've selected to create your flat pack design or whatever project that you're going to do, or whatever project that you're milling. So how much you come down at a time will depend on your tooling, will depend on the hardness of your material, and then it also depends on the thing that we didn't change in here, which are your speeds. So if you're going super, super fast, you might want to slow down or go at a smaller depth per pass. And then what we'll do also is for this project, we will uncheck stock to leave. We do not want stock to leave. We'll do a clean cut all the way through, and that will just be our dimension. And I think we are good to go here. And here's your even step down. So it's going to go that 0.889 millimeters each layer until it goes 0.2 millimeters for a finishing or cleanup pass. And normally we're going to keep all of our linking and stuff the way it is. Some of the things that we might change at some point, and actually we have in this design now, is if we want to use a helix. So what this would do is bring our bit down in a circular pattern to go into our material nice and easy without hurting the bit. And so we'll hit OK. And so what you'll see and what's popped up is showing us that we're cutting into this rabbit here. And one thing that I think is really, really cool about this software, if we come up to simulate with machine, you can change, here it is, you can change your material to give you a better view if you need it. I'm going to keep wall paint at least for now. And then you hit plus, and then we'll be able to see what we're cutting. So this is going to give you a view of what you've programmed it to do. You can speed this up down here. And so it's going to do the same thing over and over until it gets to the depth that we want. All right, so I'm going to exit my simulation. My computer's been a little laggy. There we go. And it looks like I added another operation on accident and didn't mean to. So we'll hit cancel. There we go. All right. So pocket is a very common operation that we would use. Another operation that we would use is a 2D contour. This follows our one of our outlines that we choose. So we're going to hit 2D contour, and what we're actually going to do is we're going to use this 2D contour twice. So we can keep our feeds and speeds the same. We want to select our geometry. The first geometry I want to use is actually on the inside, so I've clicked the inside line here. At least I think I have. Let's do that one more time. Select. Let's do the face. Maybe it likes the face a little bit better. And I'm just going to make sure that it has all of my faces. Nope. I lied. Click off. So we'll hit cancel. I'm going to do this one more time. 2D contour. Select. We do want the line because the line is continuous. There we go. That's what we want. One thing that might be important here is that we add some tabs. So this will have material inside of it. Once we start cutting this contour and getting towards the bottom, this material inside will get loose. And we don't want it to get loose and then hit the machine or try to fly out of the machine. So we'll hit tabs. And I love that it gives the preview of what your tabs are. You can change the distance, the width or dimensions of your tabs. Uh, I am going to go with, actually, what I'm going to do instead of doing by distance, I'm going to change my tab positioning to number of tabs. And I just want to do 4. And then we can select, look, there we go. It's giving us 1, 2. Let's see if we can see the other 4. Okay, 3, 4. There we go. We also look from the top view and see all 4. And that's exactly what I want. I'm going to keep the dimensions that they have here. They're not terrible. In some ways, you don't want to go too thick or too thin. My preference is actually to go a little thinner than you need, so it's easier to break off or to cut off if you need to. All right, I'm going to change my view back. I'm just going to hit the home button here to get the isometric view again. And we're going to keep the same thing here for our clearance height. This will change again if you were using some type of fixture that's taller than your original stock. You just want to account for that so that the bit can move above it. So we're going to keep that the same. And our passes, we're going to keep the same as well. This can all stay. It's my preference to use multiple depths. This maximum roughing is way too much. We need to go closer to what we had in that last one, 889. So this is just shy of a millimeter per pass as we're going through. If we were to have done the 9 millimeters, whatever it said, we probably would have broken our bit or caused a fire. So we're going to leave all of that alone. From here, we'll use even step downs. And then what we'll do is we can rough the final. That's fine too. No stock to leave, so we're going to cut all the way through our material. And then we have our linking. This is all fine. Yep, we'll keep all of that as well. So sweet. So now we have a second operation here. You can see our tabs. You can see where it cuts through our material all the way to the bottom. You can see our previous rabbit that we've already created. So what we'll do is, because we're going to use this contour again, if you right click your contour, we can duplicate. And we're going to edit that duplication. And what we're going to do is change our geometry. So we can deselect. So what we had at first was the inside. I'll just click the X to deselect what we selected. And then I want to click on the outside contour now, the outside line. And we still have our 4 tabs in here, which is great. Now we've just selected the outside. So that will actually allow us to take our frame outside of this. Because we've duplicated the first contour, we're going to use the exact same settings that are already that we've used for contour, the first operation, that inside piece. So the only thing we really need to change is the selection here, and then we'll hit OK. So let's look at this. If you click on Setup 1, let's go to Simulate with Machine, and let's hit play. And so we're getting that first rabbit. You can see that it's working on the pocket. We can skip to the next operation. if my computer works with me here. Let's exit. There we go. It's just slow to respond. So let's see if we can. What I want to show you is the other operations. Let's see if we can see those. So it's just, this contour again is just following the line that we selected. So it's going to do it for the inside. It's going to do it for the outside. What you're noticing right now, it's taking off a little bit of material off of this inside piece. That works for us because that is not part of the picture frame that we're keeping. As long as it wasn't taking between too much from that rabbet, that's what we would care about and be worried about more. So you can see those, and in a nutshell, that is your completed CAD project. So you have a quick picture frame here, and then we have some quick manufacturing that we've completed in our Fusion 360. So it doesn't take a long time. There aren't a lot of options here. So what I'm going to challenge you to do is in your project to do your best to sketch out your project, and then you can extrude it and try to create some CAD operations or some CAM operations here with a setup. You might have a pocket, you might have a contour, and do your best, give your best attempt, and we'll move from there. Next week, what we'll try to do is cut a couple jobs that you have, and with the full understanding that you might have some tweaks to make because I'm not there. So do your best, and I greatly appreciate you, and I'll see you next week.